Welcome to the Wealth Acceleration Podcast with your host, wealth coach Wade Reed.
Hey, what's up, Money Masters? It's Wade Reed here for another episode of the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. And this episode's coming out on December 18th, which is my wife's birthday. So who better to have with me than my gorgeous wife, Catherine?
Hey.
So glad to have you on with me.
Happy to be here.
So we're going to do a little bit of an interview style and talk about some interesting things related to childhood, chores, the value of doing chores, the value of like having jobs that are contributions to the family versus paid jobs, and how that plays into, as parents, those of you who are parents, how that will help you be even better with teaching your kids about money, and how you guys who are not yet parents can just look back at your childhood and kind of check in with the role of chores and work and how that has influenced you in your day-to-day life, as well as how you handle money. So Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. We're going to have a blast.
Awesome. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your upbringing.
So close your eyes for a minute unless you're driving. I want you to picture sunny St. George, Utah, southern Utah. We've got beautiful weather. It's a Saturday afternoon. And my mom throws my brother and sister and I carrots that we rinse off in the kiddie pool water to be able to eat from our own garden. It was one of my happiest childhood memories. Now, of course, this is Saturday afternoon. In the morning, what were we doing prior? We had done our Saturday chores. That's what we always call them. We did our family. We worked together as a family. Work hard, play hard. I feel like my mom would say that, and we say that to with our 6 children. Work hard, play hard. And we had, we always had our job list every single Saturday. I don't remember a Saturday, unless we were out of town, that we didn't have a job list. And my cute mom would say, you know, we're weed the garden and feed the sheep, the goats, the chicken. I grew up on a small farm, and it was just like work hard, play hard. But my mom would say, read 20 minutes or smile, you know, along with the wash the pots and pans or sweep or vacuum or whatever. And so we'd have this long job list, and then also some fun things on there. And then we got to play as a family. And sometime in that day, I loved this. I shared this with Wade when we were dating, and it's been fun to see with our own kids. So we had Mommy Store. We got tickets for some of those jobs. Now, I didn't get paid to clean my own room. We'll talk about that later. Contributions, we just contribute to the family value. We are family members. We all are needed in that family work. But just those extra Saturday type chores, we got tickets, right? And so we would take our tickets to the store, to Mommy Store. My cute mom now calls it Grandma Store, and we do it for family reunions. But at Mommy Store, I would buy, gosh, I mean, it's the 80s, guys. And so maybe there was some strawberry shortcake, little coloring book, or crayons and treats, all sorts of probably Hostess Twinkies. I can't believe, I mean, that was in the 80s, right? But that was, it felt like this, like carnival. We got to just choose from Mommy Store. And so then I was motivated. But then, of course, there was that intrinsic, this feels good. Our home was just more peaceful and cleaner. So there's a song that we learned growing up. Saturday is a special day. It's the day we get ready for Sunday. And so we do all the chores on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we could connect as a family and you know, go to church together, worship together, and just have a hopefully peaceful Sunday and take naps and read the comics, right? Anyway, so that's my kind of paint that story. I wanted to paint that picture in your mind. Man, I loved the 80s, right? But just such a happy childhood. And it wasn't without imperfections and trial. That I didn't always love doing chores, neither did my siblings, but we just knew it was just expected. In our family, we did chores every Saturday. And then we were expected also, you know, to do our dishes and clean our rooms midweek as well. But the big vacuuming and everything, weeding the garden, all that was on Saturday. So.
Wow. Sounds like a nightmare to me.
No.
All you guys ever did was chores?
Yeah, right. I said work hard, play hard. We were in the pool.
No, I'm teasing. So that was your Saturday.
Or run through the sprinklers. Oh, man, we loved those sprinklers. That was like on a Saturday, yeah, doing those chores.
Stuff like that. So I know your parents, your mom in particular, was on a farm.
Yeah. So. Yeah, she grew up on a dairy farm, potato farm, and then we had some cows, sheep, goats, and then we'd rent out some of the acreage of land to a few neighbors. We never owned horses, but oh, what a dream that was for me as a child. There was sometimes horses on our property that I could just like go talk to. The horse, our sheep were Awesome and Blossom. We have chickens now that I've named, my kids and I have named.
Yeah, we have
Awesome
two of our chickens named
Awesome
Awesome
and
and Blossom
Blossom.
because of that.
Yeah.
So you had a mom who was on a farm. I had a mom who was on a farm.
Yep.
My mom was a potato farmer in Idaho as well. No animals, but they had sugar beets. And my mom talked about the days when she had to hoe the row.
Yeah.
When they were long.
Yeah.
They were like
Yep.
really long rows to hoe, and they would spend their days doing that stuff. So we have this interesting background. That I think farming background is really helpful. Neither of us were actually farmers growing up, but we had some land. My family probably had a third to a half of an acre. Catherine had
we had an acre, and we had a farm with animals ourselves, but then we got rid of all the animals but the chickens when I want to say like 12. And so then that's when we had my grandparents built a house, but they were such hard workers growing up in the Depression, just learning how to work hard. And so then I would, I loved working with them. It didn't feel like work. I was like helping Grandpa D with his, fixing my bike tire. That was like such a happy part of my childhood, is going to help them out too.
Cool. So there's really interesting lessons to be learned, guys. Those of us who have that sort of background, I'm sure not everyone listening to this has a background like that, where your parents were farmers, your grandparents were farmers, but probably 2 or 3 generations back that was the case. If you didn't grow up in a household where you had land and a place to do a garden or have a dog or goats and sheep like you had, I mean, it wasn't huge. I know her farm wasn't that huge, but there was enough to kind of keep the family busy.
Yeah.
And us as parents now, looking back, we were just chatting about this earlier today, that the chickens we have, we don't get very many eggs. We have 13 chickens. We get like half of them are laying right now. And it's kind of frustrating because it costs a lot to have chickens. But we joke about, well, it's not about the chickens and the eggs. It's about what we get to help our kids do because of that.
We want them to not be afraid of hard work. And they are literally in there. 2 Saturdays ago, we were cleaning out all of the chicken poop. And that sounds disgusting. We had gloves. I really made sure we washed and showered after, because it was so gross. But that was just important. That's what you do. Even if it's a small mini chicken farm like ours, or we have a dog and we have a cat, and they hate cleaning out the cat litter box. It's gross.
It is not fun.
And it's important. It's important to still do. And I've tried to teach the kids, and you've taught our kids, as they're having breakfast, well, did you feed the dog? Because the dog needs to eat his breakfast too. If we're eating dinner as a family, well, did you feed the dog? Did you feed the cat? Did you feed the chickens? Because the animals deserve to eat too. And that I know it helps them in their minds become more just thoughtful and mindful, because they're thinking of others. So hopefully it's going to help their parenting someday, because they're thinking of someone else before themselves.
And I'm also thinking in that context about how the role of responsibility that as kids take on jobs, whether it's outside jobs or inside jobs, those of you who don't have land and animals and things like we did growing up, or don't have that now, you might have toilets that need to be scrubbed, floors that need to be cleaned, windows that need to be washed, cars that need to be washed, grass that needs to be mowed, maybe some flower beds that need to be taken care of. There's all kinds of things that can be done at a small level. Even kids 2-3 years old start to want to engage in doing the family work and following the example of mom, dad, siblings, and they want to learn independence and how to do those things. That I have experienced personally is that because of the upbringing I had, I'm more proactive in the way I live my adult life. I'm willing to take on the responsibilities of my work and take things to completion, whereas others who maybe didn't have the same upbringing might not be as proactive in their life.
Right.
And I'm curious how that's been for you.
I think you're spot on. It actually reminds me of, as we're talking about hard work and teaching our children to work, it reminds me of that study that you and I were talking about earlier. I always say research shows, and Wade laughs at me, but I love some tangible, good research from these different universities. Harvard right now, they're doing a long running study which indicates a strong correlation between children doing chores and their later success in life. So it's an extensive study. It found a significant link between children who regularly did chores and their later professional success and overall well-being and happiness. And I believe that. And I have seen our 2 oldest children, Emily and Johnny particularly, never leave the house without making their bed. Yeah. And Emily was 17 months old when Johnny was born. So they're not quite Irish twins, but I call them my Irish twins. I was primarily the one home with them. And I always made sure that Emily made her bed when baby Johnny was little. And so she would smooth, smooth, pat, pat. And it was just the quilt that, Grandma Eileen had made for her. But that was, and then Johnny made his bed when he was only 18 months and 2 years old. And so we're teaching them to work hard and to be proud of their work. Like one thing, like especially our middle kids, I think we were even more exact with our older two, what a clean bathroom looks like. We had pictures actually of what their clean room looks like. So if you have a clean room, it should look like this. Our middle kids, I came to you and I told you that I had just heard what we don't inspect, they won't respect. Do you remember that? And so Wade's better than I am at this, that he's like, hey, let's go check the bathroom. Awesome. Let's celebrate together. And I think I love that you do that as a daddy, because we get to celebrate them after they've done bathrooms in particular, right? With sweeping and vacuuming. Sarah just vacuumed yesterday because she was going to be gone snowboarding all day today. And so guess what? Saturday chores ended up on Friday night for our 14-year-old.
Yeah.
I helped her, the younger brothers and I helped pick up things so that she could vacuum more thoroughly. And we don't have to like move the couch and the bed every time, but let's do a good job and teach them to do a good job, because they'll be proud of that. They really will.
This translates well into a meritocracy, meaning that if you are doing your jobs and your responsibilities, then you get privileges. And you can earn more privileges by doing more. If you want to be proactive, you can earn more tickets toward actual dollars or experiences with mom or dad, which then helps them recognize that in an environment, a work environment, they may be able to do the same thing. In fact, our capitalistic society is largely built around meritocracies, where we go in and we add value to the organizations we work within. And it's not the time that we're paid for, it's the value that we deliver during the time. And if we recognize that early on, that it's the value we're delivering in the family that is why I'm getting the money or why I'm getting the privilege, I think that's going to translate well into those who become entrepreneurial. Not all of our kids are engaging in entrepreneurial thinking right now, but we're training them to think about the value they're creating, whether it's in an employment role or in a like self-employed type role. They've done some lawns around the neighborhood. They've done some raking around the neighborhood, some snow cleanup. Those are kind of
babysitting and
babysitting. So we give them those opportunities around the neighborhood and encourage that type of behavior for them to step up and do something a little bit uncomfortable. And that, I think, is training them to be proactive as adults, which then will help them as they have more and more financial resources to manage that well, because they're seeing mom and dad and how we're managing things well. And then they'll have that good behavior and guidance that we've given them, so that they, as this podcast is called, Accelerate Wealth, requires consistent earning. It requires good management, so there's surplus, and so that investment decisions can be made, which include investments in self to become more valuable to the employers that you work for, shifting from one company to another. I had a guy just tell me the other day, in fact, it was just last night, he had a 30% increase in his income just by shifting companies.
Awesome.
Right. That's a wealth acceleration step right there.
You go.
Right. Recognizing you don't have to stick with just one employer. You're valuable at other companies. I have a cousin who had a similar experience as an IT professional, moved from a university to, I think it was Oracle, and doubled his income for the same exact.
Awesome.
The things that you're teaching your kids and that we've been teaching our kids, I think, have a great influence on the acceleration of wealth in the future. And wealth not just being dollars, but wealth in family life, wealth in physical health, wealth in your spiritual life, wealth in your relationships outside of your family. What do you think?
I love it. I'm over here going, amen. I agree with all of that. I like the value that we bring. Sometimes when our kids are like, well, how much am I going to earn for doing all this, the spring cleanup and the fall cleanup that are just the really nasty ones. And the kids are like, well, how much am I going to earn? And we don't like to say, oh, $2 per hour, $5 per hour. It's like, well, let's look at, maybe it's 15 per job. And then maybe we go out to dinner as a family after, because it was really, really a good job. And we celebrate in other ways. But we want to teach them to have that abundance mindset and that intrinsic, like pay them physically and have that intrinsic, I'm proud of this. Right. Just barely, I was with the children. I don't even remember where we were driving home from something. And I said to our middle boys, oh, we went to Christmas Around the World at BYU. And on our way home from the field trip, I actually want to share this. One of our kids was like, another red light. And I said, yes, another red light. And I tried to validate, like, oh, isn't that frustrating? That's a whole nother podcast, right? We can teach about how to empower kids and whatnot with how to listen and validate. But I was like, isn't that frustrating And as I've been focusing on gratitude more in this beautiful month of November, and now today's my birthday, and it's, just for December. But throughout the holidays, I've been trying to focus on gratitude more. And I said, do you know what? I said to Matthew, do you know what this red light means? It means that we are out and about and adventuring. Because if we were home, we wouldn't have a red light or a green light. And he was like he totally just like, Mom, you're lame. But then I was like, he's like, well, then what does a green light mean? I was like, a green light also means that we're out adventuring. We had just gone on a really epic field trip to appreciate cultures of beautiful dress and costume and dance at BYU, this Christmas around the world, right? And so he was like, what does a green light mean? And I said, a green light, red light means that we're adventuring. We're on this fun field trip. And then I went on to say, because we were actually listening to your podcast. You guys, I love his podcast. I just have to say, like, our kids all listen to it, just with Mom in the car, the older two on their own. But I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. Like, you are leaving a legacy for our kids. So I hope our viewers, our guests, listeners, hopefully appreciators as well. Anyway, and wealth accelerators.
Yes.
But anyway, I love that. Then I went off on this tangent with them, because I often do. And I said, do you know what a messy kitchen is? A messy kitchen means that we have money for food and that we're eating at home. And do you know what dirty laundry means? It means that we have, you guys get it. The dirty laundry and dirty house means that we have a home to live in, and an unmade bed means that we have a comfy bed that we slept in that night. So just that gratitude. And so I tried to focus it more on that. Again, we can do a whole another podcast just on gratitude and teaching our kids gratitude, because that is absolutely a great way to accelerate our wealth, is to focus on expand. Anyway, sorry, what were we talking about? Like, I just go off.
Well, I just have loved having you on the podcast.
Aw, thank you.
Guys, expect to have more of her. I think it's going to be a fun dynamic to do some more kind of dialogue between husband and wife here. It's been an interesting ride. I've been really blessed to be married to this woman. She came into our marriage with a healthy relationship with money. It's not always the case. And those of you who are married, if you feel like there's some discord with regard to money, it's really important that you have some conversations together regularly. What we call a marriage mastermind. On your Sunday is the most common day, but have some time specifically, 30 minutes to an hour, where you can connect and talk not just about money, but about the fun upcoming things, because money is really only the means to get what you want in life. So if you have a trip coming up that you want to plan for, when is it going to be? How much money is it going to take? And are you already saved up for that? You might have to cut back on something, and recognize, as I've said before, you can have anything in life that you want, just not everything. And too often we get sucked into the marketing that tells us to give our money away to all these other things. And we get these small instant gratifications by buying things. But if you want something bigger in life, you can have it. You just have to delay that gratification a bit and plan for it and prepare for it. And that's what those marriage masterminds can do. Those of you who haven't been taking weekend getaways on a quarterly basis as husband and wife, Catherine and I, early on in our marriage, determined that it was crucial for our long-term success that we, with the financial resources that were greatly limited early on in our relationship, that we still had date nights, that we had a weekend, that we had an overnighter together away from children, that we had some time to go plan and prepare for our future together, to envision our future together. Is my first podcast. If you haven't listened to that yet, go back and listen to that, because it's about creating a vision for your future, a financial vision.
I love that one.
But also a family vision. Like, what is it that you want your family dynamic to look like? What kind of legacy do you want to live today? Not just leave behind, but live today. What kind of values matter to you guys and unique to you? And don't let everyone else's influence tell you how to manage your money and how to make whatever investments they're making. You need to make investments that are right for you. And so back to the childhood thing, your upbringing brought to our marriage a sense of unification in our belief systems. Yet we still took a personal finance class together in 2005, which ultimately was the catalyst for me to become the financial coach that I am today and to do this podcast, because you were willing to have that experience with me to study about money and to make sure we're on the same page.
Absolutely.
Really grateful that you've been here.
Thank you.
So to wrap things up for today, our encouragement to you is, those of you who are married, have children, be thinking about how you can engage your kids regularly in small and simple jobs, chores around the house that they are just contributing to, and then have some opportunities for them to earn tickets, have some sort of household store possibly, where you bring home things from the actual store that they can have in your home, so you don't have to drive off to Target or Walmart or
Right.
whatever your local store is where the fun, interesting things are, but you can have it at your home, and they can get their jobs turned into experiences with mom or dad, toys, bike, whatever, and have a little economic household yourselves. We encourage you to look at your childhood and say, what were the gifts that my parents gave me? Some of you might be negative about your parents and your upbringing about money, and maybe you didn't learn anything interesting about money, or you learned that money was scarce and it was really stressful. But look at that and go, well, what were the positive lessons as well? What were the things that I learned about how to live my life that will help me be successful with managing money? Because money, again, is the byproduct, the receipt of the value you're creating. It's not the time, it's the value you are creating for your customers, if you're a business owner, for your employer, if you're an employee. Be respectful of that. You've worked hard for that. It's your skill that's bringing that. And as you respect yourself and the lessons that you've learned growing up and how that's applied to how you're earning money today, you'll be more respectful of the money that's come in, and you'll be more likely to manage it well so you can get the bigger things in life. So that's our encouragement to you, is look back at that and find the positives that you can use today to catapult and accelerate you forward. So
Awesome.
We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wealth Acceleration Podcast. We hope the insights from today's episode help you streamline your finances and grow your wealth stress-free. For show notes from today's episode and more tips on creating a comprehensive wealth-building plan, visit moneymasterycoaching.com. Remember, financial freedom is attainable. Until next time, keep accelerating towards your goals. See you on the next episode.